We kick off this story right in the middle of some serious beef that's been going on for years. A brutal war between the humanoid races, blessed by the god of light, and the demons who serve the god of darkness. After countless battles, a crew of heroes finally reaches the demon lord's castle, determined to end this conflict once and for all. But the journey, my friends, has already been costly. Right at the entrance to the throne room, the group is already getting their asses kicked by a female demon. Theron, one of the buddies, yells for our protag, Kyle, to keep moving while he stays behind to hold the line alone. Kyle obeys, but deep down he knows Theron isn't walking away from this one. And we all know what that means, right? Vest in the chat. They push forward into the throne room, but out of nowhere, several dark spheres rain down on Kyle. He manages to block a few, but there are too many to stop. That's when Urza throws herself in front of him, taking the hit to protect him. The spheres completely engulf her, and she's disintegrated on the spot. After Urza's death, the masked demon finally shows his face, ready for a fight to the death. Consumed by rage, Kyle charges at him like a maniac, not thinking about anything else. The demon, without even blinking, unleashes another barrage of dark spheres, and Kyle barely avoids getting fried, diving behind a pillar. But after seeing the attack's destructive power up close, a feeling of, oh, we're screwed, starts to sink in. The demon's attack is known as Elimination, an OP high-tier spell that just annihilates anything it touches. With magic that broken, Kyle realizes he can't get close enough to land a decisive blow. Left with no other option, he prepares to make an extremely dangerous gamble. He believes he can defeat the demon lord by unleashing all the energy stored in his sword's magic gem. The problem? Doing so comes at a huge cost, one that will probably take his life with it. Aware of the danger, but with nowhere to run, he decides to go all in. Releasing the sword's full power, he charges forward with a surge of strength, shattering the demon lord's defenses. With one final powerful strike, Kyle shoves his blade right through the demon's chest, obliterating the poor bastard completely. But in doing so, Kyle's sword is destroyed, and he's left gravely wounded. Even though he managed to save the world, the price was unbearable. Everyone he swore to protect is gone. His friends, his family, even his home, all wiped off the map by the demons. In the end, victory feels hollow, and for Kyle, there's nothing left but sorrow. Moments later, he collapses from his injuries, accepting death without fear. After all, there's nothing left for him in this world. But suddenly, the demon's magic gem reappears. It starts glowing uncontrollably. Now, with the demon dead, there's no one left to contain it. And if it overloads, it could wipe the entire world off the map. Despite the pain, Kyle drags himself toward the unstable artifact, determined to stop the explosion. As soon as his hand touches the gem, a blinding flash of light engulfs him. A few hours later, Kyle opens his eyes again. He's back in his bed, completely confused, because this shouldn't be happening. He gets up and heads to the window, convinced it has to be a dream. But when he looks outside, there it is. His hometown. Perfectly intact. The very same town he saw reduced to ashes by a demon attack. The sight moves him to tears, but after everything he's been through, he still struggles to believe any of it is real. At that moment, his childhood friend, Lise, walks into the room, calling out for him. The instant Kyle sees her, he's totally bugging out. Lise picks up on his odd behavior and asks if something's wrong. But he remains completely silent. Kyle still thinks this must be an illusion. But right now, he doesn't even care. He's just overjoyed to see Lise once more. Without hesitation, he hugs her. Nervous, she asks what he's doing. But Kyle is lost in the moment and doesn't answer. When she tries to break free, he holds on even tighter, until they lose their balance and tumble onto the bed together. With Kyle now on top of her, the vibe gets super awkward. And our traumatized dude looks ready to make a move. But at this point, he and Lise are not at that stage in their friendship yet. She shoves him away and lands a punch so powerful it sends him flying across the room. Now writhing in pain on the bed, Kyle hears Lise shouting at him for doing something like that without any kind of warning. She admits she's not sure what's gotten into him today, but she would have appreciated a little warning so she could be emotionally ready. Lise leaves the room angrily, forcing Kyle to reflect on his actions. As he does, he notices something unusual. He actually felt the pain from Lise's punch. And it was intense. If this were just a dream, he shouldn't have been able to feel pain at all. This makes him question whether he might actually be in the real world. Kyle stands up and pulls back the sheets, shocked to find the demon's magic gem resting there. This confirms, beyond a doubt, that he's in the real world. He goes to the mirror, studies his reflection, and notices he looks much younger than he remembers. What's more, he distinctly recalls sustaining deadly wounds in his fight with the demon lord, yet now, his body shows no signs of injury, completely unharmed. And Lise is alive. This leads him to believe that he has somehow traveled back in time. The only potential explanation being the mysterious magic item he possesses. At that moment, Kyle's stomach rumbles. He makes his way downstairs, only to be surprised by a meal waiting in the kitchen. It dawns on him that Lise must have prepared it. He sits down, fills a bowl, and takes a bite. It's been so long since he's had a proper meal. A few minutes later, Theron comes downstairs, also looking for food. But when he spots the stack of empty plates, he realizes he's too late. Kyle even polished off the entire pot of stew. As Theron grumbles, Kyle reflects on how surreal this is. Moments ago, they were fighting side by side, with Theron sacrificing himself. Now, seeing him alive feels unreal. Noticing Kyle staring, Theron asks if something's wrong. Snapping out of it, Kyle says he's fine, though he's still unsure how far back he's gone. So, he asks Theron what year it is. Theron, puzzled, tells him it's May 24th, 2823. Stunned, Kyle asks if he's sure, and Theron assures him he's not joking. Turns out, today is Kyle's birthday. So Theron lets the food incident slide. He figures he'll have to go beg Lise for something to eat, which is nothing new for him. As Theron heads off, Kyle stays in the kitchen, needing to think. If he's truly back in time, the next step is clear: he has to talk to his mom. Kyle finds her in the library. When he finally sees her, relief washes over him, yet he can't shake the haunting memory of her violent death in the future. His mother looks up, startled, since Kyle never visits the library at night. He corrects her, explaining that it's already morning. She must have lost track of time while reading. She apologizes for being buried in her books for so long, but Kyle quickly explains that's not why he's here. He admits he has a question about magic, and since she's one of the nation's rare archmages, he knew she'd be the perfect person to ask. His mother agrees to hear him out, so Kyle asks her if she knows any spells in existence that can return someone to the past. Kyle's mom responds by saying that spells like that do exist, which catches him off guard. He's never heard of any time-related magic before. She explains that while time magic is real, very little is understood about it. Even though its existence is acknowledged, no one has ever been able to use it. The reason is simple. The spell demands an unimaginable amount of magic, far more than any mage in the world could ever hope to possess. Even if the most powerful mage tried to cast the spell using every last bit of their magic, they'd barely manage to go back a single second. Kyle then asks if it would be possible to travel years into the past with the help of a magic item. After giving it some thought, his mom admits that if a magic item were used to store enough power, then time travel might actually be possible. But gathering that much energy would take more than 1,000 years, so she doubts it's a viable option. Kyle then asks if someone could use the forbidden rite, but his mother is more alarmed by the fact that he even knows about such a spell. Kyle quickly covers it up, claiming he only came across it in a book and doesn't really know the details. His mom feels relieved after hearing that. The reason she was so concerned is because the forbidden rite involves sacrificing one's life force to gain magical power, making it extremely dangerous. But even if someone were reckless enough to try it, she still believes that using time travel magic properly would be nearly impossible. Pulling off something like that would require sacrificing half the continent's humanoid population. As far as she's aware, no one is ruthless enough to commit such a horrific act. Not to mention, there isn't even a catalyst powerful enough to hold that much magical energy in existence. But if such an artifact truly existed, there would likely be records of it somewhere. She walks over to the shelf, pulls out a book and flips through its pages. After a brief search, Kyle's mom finds the relevant passage and points it out to him. It's a section detailing the legendary divine dragon's heart. Legend says the ancient kingdom of Zarls thrived for thousands of years thanks to the energy contained within the divine dragon's heart. However, once the gem's power was exhausted, the kingdom fell into decline. Kyle's mom thinks that an artifact as powerful as the dragon's heart might be capable of storing enough energy to make time travel a reality. But it's been missing for over 1,000 years, so it's possible that it has fallen into the hands of the demons by now. Kyle starts to piece together what happened, as it's evident that the gem he got from the demon lord must have been the dragon's heart. Kyle's mom appreciates that they're finally spending time together again, admitting she was worried he'd been keeping his distance. Kyle apologizes and assures her it wasn't intentional. She's not upset, though, just glad he came to visit. Still, she can't help but notice that he seems a bit more grown up than usual. Anyway, she recalls that Liz mentioned she'd be coming over to cook for them today. So, she asks Kyle if he wants to head upstairs to eat, but before she goes, Kyle admits that he already ate everything. She's taken aback at first, but then quickly collects herself and says it's fine. After all, it's his birthday. Still, since he finished all the food, that'll count as his birthday present. Talking with his mom proved to be really helpful, as Kyle learned a lot of valuable information. He now knows that the object is actually the divine dragon's heart and that the masked demon most likely embedded a time travel spell into it to send himself into the past. Still, Kyle can't figure out why the masked demon would want to go back in time in the first place. Right then, Liz approaches Kyle, and the moment he sees her, he starts apologizing for his behavior earlier that morning. He explains that it was because of a terrible nightmare. Curious, Liz asks what the dream was about. Kyle confesses that in the dream, she died, and with that, she realizes why he had hugged her so suddenly. Liz smiles and says she's willing to forgive him, knowing it wasn't really his fault. But that gentle smile only makes Kyle think about everything he's destined to lose. Their village borders the demon territory, which means that when the invasion starts, they'll be the first to face the demon's assault. The village was eventually reduced to ashes and Liz lost her life in the midst of the destruction. From that day forward, Kyle vowed to avenge her. But now, here she is, alive and well. Liz notices his sudden silence and asks if something's bothering him. But Kyle is lost in thought, knowing that if he doesn't act soon, then in 3 years he'll lose everyone he cares about all over again, and he's the only one who knows what's coming. He refuses to let history repeat itself. No matter what, he vows to change the future and protect everyone from the tragic fate that awaits them. That was the first episode. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.